What is a myth you are tired of hearing? That black people have big peens. Only the guys do. Black men, on average, do have longer peens than white men. Part of the reason for the myth, though, is that black men are, on average, 0.5 inches longer than white men when flaccid, but only 0.1 inches longer, on average, when erect. Also, white men fall closer to a bell curve, while black men skew longer. TL. Doctor, black men are showers, white men are growers. I'm pretty sure, when I bathe there is no black man standing over me raining down on me. Cutting your hair makes it grow faster. I get so annoyed every time someone says it. Trimming dead ends just allows the hair to continue growing without the ends breaking off over and over. I hear this over and over. Also, to shave in order to get beard. Oh, you don't have beard because you have to shave often. It's more that people think shaving makes it come back thicker. Well, no crap, a few days growth looks/feels thicker. The ends of the hairs haven't been worn down yet and they're too short to be easily flexed. According to science, it's impossible for bumblebees to fly. Well, no, according to the model for insect flight that was in use at the time, it was impossible for bumblebees to fly. The author of the paper logically concluded that bumblebees flew in some way that their model didn't account for, which they do, but somehow the takeaway was heard. A dumb scientist thinks bumblebees don't fly. I thought people just considered them as a totally different type of insect. Can you give me one other insect that can speak English, play tennis, fall in love with a human, take a civil case to court? You realize you grew up when you understand that the chick's boyfriend/ex was the only sane person on the entire movie. Our blood is blue when it's inside our bodies. I spent 6 years telling people that whenever it came up. Then I learned it was a myth. Now I have to tell people I was wrong for 6 years to make sure they don't pass on fake info. Hello, Cindy? Yes. Hey, it's me, Op, just getting into contact with everyone I've associated with for the last 6 years or so. Are you sitting down? But, I have bad news for you. No, it's easier if you just let me say this. So it turns out our blood isn't blue when it's in our, hello. Damn it, I was too late again. I want my steak well done. Don't want any blood in my meat. There has never been any blood in any piece of steak you have ever eaten. When they kill the cow they slit the throat and hang it upside down, draining all of the blood out. What you are seeing as blood in a steak is a combination of a saline type solution that is lightly colored red and a protein called myoglobin which helps to carry oxygen to muscle tissue. That evolution should eventually create a perfect being, if it hasn't already. Nope. Evolution by natural selection only produces something that can survive in a certain environment. If the environment changes and it can't adapt, it dies. Every trait, even the ones that seem like they only benefit, has trade-offs. A species that's perfectly adapted for swimming can't also be perfectly adapted to run fast on land. A species that's perfectly adapted to a tropical rainforest can't also be perfectly adapted for Antarctica. Our big human brains, those use a lot of energy to grow and function. Evolution should really be summed up as survival of the good. Enough. Survival of the got laid before they died. That higher grade fuel is good for your car. If your car does not require high grade fuel then you are simply wasting your money. Here's why. Engines have something called a compression ratio. It's the distance the piston travels compared to length of the space left at the top of the stroke. For example, if my piston traveled 9 inches and left 1 inch of space at the top of the stroke, I'd have a 9:1 compression ratio. When the fuel and air mixture gets squeezed in the engine, heat is created, and it will actually want to combust on its own without the aid of a spark plug. This is called predetonation. But here's where fuel grade comes in. Fuel contains something called octane. Octane prevents the air/fuel mixture from predetonating. If you have a typical car with a typical 9:1 compression ratio, all you need is the regular cheapest gas that's available. However, if you have a sports car, you probably have a higher compression ratio, maybe all the way up to 12 or 13:1. In an engine like this, regular gas doesn't have enough octane to prevent predetonation, and if you were to use it, you'd encounter a problem called knocking, where the piston is slammed into the cylinder wall from the air/fuel mixture going off earlier than it's supposed to. So what do? You buy higher grade fuel that contains more octane. What happens when you put high grade fuel in a regular car? Absolutely nothing. The fuel burns like normal, except there's absolutely no need for that extra octane, so you're just throwing your money away. Well, not only that, but if a car recommends regular, and you put premium in, over time you will get a lot more soot and carbon buildup. This is due to the higher octanes require a higher burn temperature than lower octanes, so the exhaust ends up with more unburned fuel. I know, as I've seen this so often with inexperienced car owners. Black soot on rear bumpers around exhaust pipes, because people keep using higher grade fuels. Didn't know that. Thanks for the info. Macs can't get viruses. They do, it's just that if you do get one, you have a chance of getting a virus that will frick your computer up. I'd say the reality is that Macs and Linux definitely do get viruses. It's practically impossible for anything to be bulletproof with viruses. It's just that Linux and Mac viruses are less common, because mainly malware authors focus on Windows, since Windows has the most users, therefore more systems to infect, which if it's, say, ransomware or something, more money. The risk is growing for macOS too, as more people buy them, several for the exact reason they don't get viruses. They are becoming a larger target. That microwaves give you cancer. I lived with a guy who was completely adamant on this. He would bring it up every single time I used it. How hard is it to Google stuff? For those of you who don't know, microwaves use non-ionizing radiation. It just vibrates water particles to heat up your food. Not to mention the Faraday cage that makes sure that almost all of the radiation doesn't leave the microwave. My grandmother is absolutely convinced that microwaves cause cancer, and that her brother died from having his heart cooked inside his chest because he worked in a secret government lab where she believes they were working with microwaves. The only part that is actually true is that my granduncle did work in a government lab not long before he died. Columbus was the first person to discover the earth wasn't flat, and that was why he was the first to try to sail west to get to India. Actually, everyone pretty much knew the earth was round, even the lower class. Columbus, however, believed that the earth was much smaller than the Greeks thousands of years earlier had proven it was. The reason he was rejected so many times by the nobility was because the earth was in fact as big as common knowledge dictated, and he was an idiot. He would have died out at sea, or faced mutiny from his crew, if he hadn't gotten lucky and stumbled onto the Caribbeans. He wasn't even the first European to discover America. The Vikings beat him by like 500 years, but the natives shut them down when they tried to start conquering, because they forgot to bring enough smallpox. I seem to recall reading that Columbus kinda cooked his calculations some, because if the earlier estimates of the size of the earth were right, they were pretty close. His plan wouldn't work. But it had to work if Columbus was going to succeed and secure funding, so the earlier calculations had to be wrong. Also, it's thought that Columbus made a trip to Iceland, and if so may have heard tales of land to the west within relatively easy sailing distance. He may well have had some idea that there was something to the west, maybe part of the No-Nation Islands. Or maybe not. And largely by accident, because he was up on current events, Columbus picked the perfect route for crossing the Atlantic. It's still used today. Swing low down the coast of Africa, catch the Gulf Stream northern equatorial current, and cruise to the Caribbean. Left brain/right brain psychology. This one is interesting. I used to hear this all the time in the late 90s, and now I never hear it. I'm not sure if that's just the people I spend my time around, but I had forgotten all about it until now. My asshole art teacher believed in this, and made us all take a left-brained or right-brained quiz in the beginning of the year. She always was disapproving of the left-brained kids for whatever reason. I was in the middle, but during a project, I used a ruler, because I wanted my stuff to look realistic, and she looks at me, scoffs, and goes, "How left-brained of you. So unnecessary." BMI isn't a good measure of obesity. Look, there are obviously exceptions, but if you're morbidly obese on a BMI, you've got problems. It's true that if you're a bodybuilder, you may be classified as obese when you're not. But most people aren't bodybuilders. How will I know if I'm a bodybuilder? People can sense Wi-Fi and other electrical energy, and it is making them sick. Charlatans take advantage of people's general ignorance, particularly of physics and biology, to sell them products that will magically mitigate the dangerous energy. Don't tell that to Chuck though. Oh man, frick Chuck. That you need to clear out your body/colon of toxins. That's what you have a liver for, and you need these food/supplements to boost your immune system. Honey, your immune system is fine. Boosting it would equate getting an autoimmune illness, so leave your damn immune system alone. Eating low-fat foods makes you lose weight, and no pain no gain. No pain is really your body telling you in no uncertain way to stop. Really, just stop. No pain no gain is actually sorta true. It's not pain per se, but the fact is that those last reps, that are the most difficult to get done, are actually what makes the muscle grow. There is a fairly good body of scientific studies behind this theory, so take your pick on Google. Scientific fact that pain is weakness leaving the body. That the stormtroopers are somehow bad shots and miss all the time. They were told to miss. Obi-Wan clearly points out that the stormtroopers are deadly and precise, and the only time they miss is when they've been ordered to let Han and Luke escape so they can be tracked to the rebel base. Every other time we see the stormtroopers fight, they are hitting targets like crazy. Their accuracy is pretty poor on the Death Star and in Cloud City. Maybe they just don't like hallways? In A New Hope, the Empire let the rebels escape so they could track them to their base. They literally directly tell the audience this. First Tarkin asks, "You're sure the tracking beacon is secure aboard their ship? We are taking an awful risk." Then later, Leia again reminds everyone, "They are tracking us." It's the only explanation for the ease of our escape. If the stormtroopers on the Death Star had shot the rebels, they wouldn't have been able to lead the Empire back to Yavin. Cloud City was one battle on unfamiliar territory under unforeseen circumstances. A little inaccuracy is to be expected. Meanwhile, on Hoth and Endor, the stormtroopers are ridiculously accurate. They slaughter the rebels and Ewoks respectively. R2 and Leia both get nailed by single shots. People don't seem to understand the word energy. We have folks out there who are scared of nuclear power. We have scam artists who use energy as a catch-all term for anything mystical or magical. We even have individuals who base their entire worldviews on a misunderstanding of the word, and who then go on to either vote or even lead governments. Progress in countless fields has been stunted, stalled, or outright suspended due to a number of different myths and misconceptions, and many of those obstacles can be traced back to a lack of knowledge about how the world works. Spiritual energy is not a thing. Mental energy, as anything other than a psychological concept, is not a thing. Faith healing is a placebo at best. Telepathy is just the result of intuition, and astral projection isn't real. There may very well be element of our existence that we haven't yet been able to explain, but none of them involve magic, which is what most people seem to mean when they use the word energy. TL. Doctor, energy isn't something mystical or magical.